I'd already rebuilt this pump. I'd cleaned it and resealed it. But the thing is that I think part of the video had gone missing. But it's a very nice pump. It's a cast iron pump. It's a gear pump. It's got a huge mesh filter and it sits in the bottom of the sump, which is a good thing because it doesn't lose prime, because the oil's, it's always going to be submerged in oil to a certain level. So that's a good thing. Well, the 300 TDIs, if you leave them a long time, they can, without any oiling, they can lose the prime and then they're a bugger to get primed up again. So what I'm going to do just for you, I'm going to strip this down again and we're going to have a look inside. Now I'm just using this gun for speed really. So let's have a look inside. See what we're going to get. Now we've got to take off this filter. Now there is a tab washer. I'm going to remove this tab washer and put a new one on. Now this nut here is tremendously difficult to get off. I can't remember how I did it before. I think I used an adjustable spanner. Let me go and get one. Well, I can't get a spanner into it, so I think I must have tapped it on with a chisel. Let me have a look. Yeah, I'll tell you for the reason why. Now you can get a spanner into it. You can't get in. They must have had a special Land Rover tool to do this. But basically, there's not much behind here, but I took it to bits just to get the filter cleaned out. And to have a look at the gears actually, you had to take something apart. So if we undo the nut, you will find in here an O-ring. Now, notice, good job we took it apart. See, this O-ring is distorted. It's supposed to be the seal on here, but it's got distorted, look. Now the original seal in here was a flat ring, not an O-ring. Now I think I might have to have a look into that. It was a good job I looked into that, wasn't it? Anyway, these are the things you don't see. Very disappointed in that. Not that it's detrimental, but it, you know, you just want it right, you know. So we take the cover off. And we observed that there was no marks, no score marks in the top. If there's score marks you might have to replace it, but generally speaking these pumps are so good you don't have to do anything with them. Now one of the things I did when I took it to pieces originally, see if I can get them lined up again. If you look very closely here, I put two little pop marks with a centre punch because I didn't know where the gears actually were, if you see what I mean. And it's always nice to put the gears back into where they came out of. So I'm going to get a pair of needle nose pliers and pull those gears out. So here we go. Simply take the gear out. This might be a bit of a bugger. There we go. I forgot which way it came out. You can see I've put some Vaseline on here. But basically, let's have a look inside this pump and we describe how it works. Obviously, there's the intake, like this is the intake, and the outlet goes through the centre of here to the engine, right? So when you put the gears in, oil comes through a cavity at the bottom here and then goes round the outside, like buffalo gulls go round the outside. So the oil goes round the outside and into this cavity here, which goes up the shaft to lubricate the engine. Pumps don't create pressure, pumps create flow. It's restrictions that create pressure. And as I said before, when all the bushings and bearings are tight, there's less restriction, so therefore you have good oil pressure. But by creating a flow across here, we'll get a negative pressure at this side, on the suction side, and gravity forcing down on your oil will eventually force its way into this pump, and the cycle continues, and then the oil drops into the sump, goes round and round and round. Now it's interesting to note that the oil is strained through this coarse strainer first before it goes through the oil filter. It's only after the pump that it goes through the oil filter. It's pressure fed through the filter. Now the thing is about that is that any debris that's big enough to get through that mesh will eventually get chewed up in this pump. So what you're going to look for is any deep scores in the insides of here, any scores in the gears. These are beautiful, these are really nice gears. So all we're going to do simply is just put them back in. Now I've got some Vaseline on them, and I'm just going to put the gears back into the same position where they were. That's good, and then we'll have a look at, I'll put the cover back on, because there's not much really to see, and then we'll have a look at the relief valve. Here's the relief valve. What it does is it's a spring. There's a copper washer, naturally, and there's a spring, and inside here there's a piston and a ball. The ball is the valve seat, which drops into a machine face down at the bottom. The piston goes in. Now what happens is, if there's excessive pressure in the system, the relief valve opens against that pressure, so the pressure pushes that piston this way and allows the oil to recirculate back through the intake, if you see what I mean. It's quite simple little device. Now I always put brand new springs in oil pressure relief valves because they work quite hard, but that keeps a constant pressure in your system. Now a lot of people try to fake these things by trying to increase the oil pressure, thinking that that's the answer, you know, just put a bigger spring in or put some washers behind it to increase the pressure, but it's really sort of not really correct, because if you lost oil pressure, you've lost pressure through your bearings. So let's get this tightened up. Again, I'm using an adjustable because I ain't got a spanner. And then we'll have a look and see if we can find a better washer for there. I always keep bits of old gasket sets in plastic bags, and this is a bag of rubber seals and things like this, and in this bag there is a rubber ring here, which is a perfect size for here, except the hole is a little bit small. Not too much though. So what I'm going to do is going to get a punch and punch that out. I punched it out. I don't know what this is off, but it's going to be certainly a lot better than an O-ring. So what we need now is a new tab washer. I never use tab washers twice. It's really false economy. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to pre-bend this tab that goes into here. This tab washer sits between these two little lugs here, like that. Actually, it's a bit big for there. Yeah, that's a bit big. I'm going to just grind off that edge a little bit. So there's the washer in the bottom. I've got the tab washer that's now cut. Like I say, I'll tab it over once it's tightened down. You can't really bend it. Let's get this big nut started first. There we go. And we'll put these bolts in loose. There's a bit of a spring on that, so let's see if we can get this nut tightened down a bit. It is a bloody awkward one to do. I wonder if that washer's a bit thick. Yeah, might be a bit thick, that washer. Might be a bit thick, it won't nip down like the O-ring does. Let me think about this. Well, after using a bit of ingenuity and a chisel, I managed to get it tightened down, and now I can understand why it's got a locking tab on here, because with the thick washer in there you can't get it tightened up. Well, that's not going to go anywhere. Now we've got to try and get these bolts into here. That one's just out a little bit. Well, if we tweak that casing just a little bit, now we'll go and get the shaft and make sure it turns. Indeed, it turns beautifully. So that's good. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about these rubber O-rings. I know it's supposed to make a seal, and but this is submerged, so it can only suck out of this pipe. I think that's why it's got a locking washer on there, because I don't think you can actually tighten that nut down with the correct sized flat washer in to make a seal. Because if it did bottom out, that meant it might not make a seal. I don't know. Well, something to do with Britain going decimal. So now we can take this across to the vehicle and fit it to the engine. Not to the vehicle. Now we can take this across to the engine and fit it to the engine. Bloody hell! What time is it? It's not even 8 o'clock yet. I've been out here since 7 o'clock.